I'm live.
Is that too high?
This is Stephanie, and you're watching BRANDCORE, a weekly discussion on brands for business. This is the offices, and we're a creative studio based in Sydney. We specialise in branding and communications, and we have a focus on food. So why did we start this live concept? We have all kinds of really interesting discussions at the start of every branding project with our own clients, and the insights we get about marketing models and business strategies, they're valuable. They're worth other businesses considering as they start on their own business journey. So very much hoping that any young brands out there are listening and taking these ideas on board. So as you know, we have been joined by a mix of startups and big name businesses in the couple of months that we've been going. Today's special guest is Krishma Sood. I can see Krishma out there. She's going to join us shortly. I'm going to wave to Krishma. Hi there. Krishma is a marketing manager at Arnott, and she's just overseen the relaunch, the very successful relaunch of TeeVee Snacks. Let me just get some images here. I'm going to share some pictures. So first of all, I've got a little before and after. So TeeVee Snacks is, quite a heritage brand. Arnott's itself dates back to 1827. So gosh, so very, very impressive legacy. And TeeVee Snacks started in 1964. So you can see the new look kind of retains that kind of heritage of the golden TV age. I've got another picture I'm going to show, which is here. And as part of the rebrand, there's also an exciting collaboration with Krispy Kreme. So I am going to get Krishma to join us. I will just stop sharing that. Oh, and I have a packet right here. Thanks, Jeffrey. Rip. There it goes. TeeVee Snacks, Krispy Kreme. Unboxing. It's like, yeah, we Charlie D'Amelio, eat your heart out, right? There we go. I'm just going to demonstrate, but I'm not going to eat it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get Krishma to join us all about this and other aspects of her role. Let me see.
They're good. They're good.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
Very well, thanks. I love the cloud-shaped artworks behind you. They're beautiful.
Thank you. Needed to get something different other than the classic bookshelf. Thought I'd spice things up for today.
Yes, I have a humble plant and some of your TeeVee Snacks. But yeah, it is nice to have a good background. How are you today?
I'm well, and yourself?
Very well, thanks. Yeah. Look, we've got a lot of things we want to get through. I thought we'd start with just some essentials, a little bit about yourself. I noticed that you studied marketing, so it was obviously something you were drawn to very early in your career. But tell us a little bit about what got you into the world of marketing and what it takes to be a good marketer.
I think that you're right, I studied marketing, but I also studied accounting. And what I really enjoyed was the duality between the commercial side of accounting and then the creative side of marketing and how they came together. So when I graduated, it felt like a bit of a no-brainer to kind of go for a grad role with an FMCG and managed to find my way into the world of Procter & Gamble here in Sydney. I think that when we think about what it takes to be a great marketer, I always look to the ones who I guess I aspire to be like, and I try to draw on those kind of qualities that I think make a lot of sense. From a, I think, professional standpoint, it's that ability to balance, the head and the heart. So it's that idea of, what is the data saying, and then what does my intuition tell me, and how do I balance those things together?
Yes, we're big fans of intuition. I love that. And one thing you and I chatted on the phone earlier this week, and you said it helps to actually be a consumer, to actually really enjoy trying new products, getting out and about, attending events, being part of culture. So that sounds like something else that's important.
Super important. I think that's why I have an Instagram account where I use pretty much most of my free time to get on TikTok, search what's happening, look at what's happening, understand my consumer base, almost by immersing myself into the world of where is my consumer, what are they looking at, what do they like. And you're very right, trying lots of products, seeing what you think works and what doesn't work, looking at different ads, just having a natural love of things like that definitely really helps.
Yes, good. And so you worked at a number of big companies, but I sort of thought we'd sort of get right into it and talk about this awesome product here. I better put it down. I'm going to start snacking live on Instagram.
I don't mind.
You might hear some crunching shortly because it does look really good, and I can now smell this box of open Dickies next to me. But you said that a part of your role is to sort of identify ongoing gaps in the market, and this led to a full overhaul of the entire marketing mix for TeeVee Snacks. So the 6 Ps. I know there are people, obviously it started out with the 4 Ps, it's now 6. There are other marketers that call it the 7 Ps. So do you mind walking us through one by one, where you started with that overhaul?
Definitely. I think it starts with the consumer and the customer. So our consumers in the biscuit land were looking for something fun and exciting and different. So if you think about the landscape of biscuits, it hasn't really changed for decades upon decades. And our consumers were saying, we want more, we want something new. However, we know that we, as you say, are a heritage brand, and it's very challenging for us to do new things without facing a lot of, consumer sentiment, so to speak, with what they think we should and shouldn't be doing.
Of course.
The second part was understanding.
How dare you do that to my favorite pack? That kind of thing.
How dare you delete this product that nobody has purchased in 50 years? Lots of things like that. The second part, as I mentioned, was your customer. So where are their growth areas? What are they searching for? What are they hoping to achieve with their ambition? So that's, for us, that is Coles, Woolworths, and our independent stores that make up the majority of where we play. So that's kind of at the heart of what we were trying to do. When we look at our internal portfolio, I think I've touched upon, we have this plethora of brands and products. TeeVee Snacks was an interesting one. It was one that had really low penetration, really, really high loyalty, and the buyer base was essentially no longer what it used to be, because the 16-year-old who used to buy it is now 35, 40, 45, and their needs have changed.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And have they moved on and they're now buying something else? Because I'd imagine that in the whole Arnott's portfolio, you would have multiple personas, right? Because the person buying Tim Tams might be different to the person buying Scotch finger biscuits and this product. So tell us did you chase that customer, or did you find a new, younger version of them?
The goal was twofold. One, chase that new customer base, which is your Gen Y and Gen Z, that younger audience. But two, not alienate the consumers who absolutely love the brand and have grown up with it and have enjoyed it. So that takes you to sort of your first P, which is crafting your proposition. How do you talk to this new audience? How do you dial up the fun and bring that while actually taking a nod to that childish youth, I suppose, that comes from an adult who, just like you, opens a box like this and gets really excited. So that's your first sort of, I guess, natural link into your proposition P, which is crafting what is it that in one sentence you would say this brand is. So bite-sized, fun, poppable treats.
Yeah, wonderful. And actually, on that note, I always thought the first P was the product itself. Was there anything, tell us what you did to the product itself that was different? Because that's evolved a bit too, hasn't it, over the years?
Absolutely. So if we think about the product, which I'll go for that as my second P now.
Sure.
I always like to start with proposition and be very clear with what you're trying to achieve.
Yes, I get it.
So
agree.
If we jump onto the product side of things, I think you had to first unpack what is it that made TeeVee Snacks, sorry, so successful in its, you know, in its peak. And it was the idea of bite-sized, poppable, I can munch a few, I can't necessarily stop at one, but I'll give it a good go. It was things like that. So we had to stay true to essentially parts of that and what the consumer would expect, and at the same time build a stretch goal. So you'll notice that the product is obviously quite different when we think about the kind of restage with Krispy Kreme and some of the new things that have just launched, which I'll you know, just hitting your shelves now. So this is some new product just come out now. Things like that, where you're sort of saying, I'm going to push the boundaries on product and give consumers a nod to what TeeVee Snacks was, but at the same time, I'm not going to change my core products, which are the malt sticks and original. They stay exactly the same. So if you come and you don't love the new pack, that's fine. You still got what you loved, and that allows us to still talk to a new consumer. When we think about architecture of the product, it's that idea of it dissolves really quickly. You get to enjoy it. It's super moreish. You know, it's not you know, you wouldn't put it in a portion size small pack. You know, you keep it in that shareable fun, you know, open a box, maybe smash it myself, but try not to. And, you know, hopefully share it with the family on movie night. That's essentially we head into product where we got to. Yes,
got you. And then the next P, what would be the next P on your list?
Yeah, I mean, to frame the P's just really quickly, I think that you can have as many as you like. I can add in a seventh, which is profitability. As you say, we can keep going. But I think it's useful to just take them in essence as sort of how you can shape a brand and shape ideas and give them the thought and rigor that they need to think about a brand holistically. So the ones we've talked about so far, so proposition and product, I like to think of those as sort of the strategic creational Ps. And then the other ones that we'll talk about a little later, those are more sort of the executional Ps. So if I just round off that bucket of sort of strategic Ps, packaging is naturally your third one there.
That's weird. Yeah.
And that includes not just the design of the pack. So if I do show you where we got to on this one, you'll see that the logo, the layout, a lot of it's actually held where we were. We haven't gone and said, let's start from zero. We've said, well, what do consumers love about this? They love Arnott's. They love the fun. They love the angle of the TeeVee Snacks logo. But we've just dialed up key elements to make it really clear. You know, make it really clear, this is flavor driven, this is new news, this is exciting, and it'll allow us to then play in different spaces. For example, the collaboration with Krispy Kreme.
Yes, got you. Yeah. And with the packaging, this must be a category thing because it always has been upright. But do you want to tell us about the psychology behind the sort of horizontal packs, you know, like the Tim Tams and the Monte Carlos compared to the upright boxes? Do you want to tell us how you differentiate? Yeah, what goes in which pack?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if I just talk to the TeeVee brand, ultimately to start with, when you think about what the consumer's looking for, they're wanting something they can hold, pass around, they can share. We often call it the popcorn pack because it's kind of a popcorn box. That's what they're searching for at family movie night or when they're at home with friends or doing their homework and things like that. When we think about Tim Tam and that moment of eating a Tim Tam, it's arguably much more indulgent. You're not going to sit there, well, most people would not sit there and eat the entire packet. They'll probably have a serve of one or two, whereas he could have, you know, 2 to 4 to 6 biscuits and still feel, you know, like he didn't really eat too much. Whereas 6 Tim Tams later, you might feel a little differently. So that's
got you. So form follows function. I love that parallel with the popcorn box that you pass around because it would be a lot easier than the horizontal one. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm going to let you keep leading which of the P's you would then focus on next because, you know, if you're not a marketer, you can go online and find a lot of different interpretations of the 6 P's. So I'm going to get you to just keep going on that train.
thing. So if I jump across to the more executional part of those P's, I think one big one is pricing. A lot of people would say that price is arguably one of the most important ones because you're framing your competitive set. And when you think about these products, they're priced at $4. So you're really framing yourself as a strong quality treat. You're not framing yourself as a cheap substitute. You're really quality driven and you're focused on that. And if you think of the competitive set, you've got confectionery playing there at that same price point. You've got lots of different savory competitors playing there at the same price point. And that's where you're sort of saying, okay, what's my competitive set? What are consumers willing to pay for a treat like this? And how do I effectively and strategically price correctly? And at the same time, naturally, Australian consumers are driven by price promotion. I think we all love a great deal. I certainly do. We're also trained and conditioned to purchase on tickets. So we see a yellow ticket and we go, oh, yes, I'll take that. And that's where you have to be quite strategic in your promotional strategy, which is arguably enough your 5th P right there. And that's where you're sort of saying, okay, how do I promote so that I'm still driving that boost of volume that I might need at a promo price point, but I'm not devaluing this brand. I'm not constantly giving it away for a very, very low price.
Yeah, got you. With the pricing, because that is often something that people say, you know, leave that to last. Do everything else and do the price drop last, right? So would you say it's something that's also very much associated with the relaunch, or would the kind of the periodic promotions also be ongoing after that?
It's very, very interconnected. So remember that people are willing to pay for good quality products.
Yes.
So up front, if you're saying that you're not going to talk about price, then you're not going to be able to tell your product team what their cost target is. They won't know what to develop to. So you do actually have to think about your price point before you've even started developing, to give that guidance of what should my product cost landed, how much can my recipe be, you know, what price promotion can I afford in my P&L. So I would argue that it's actually probably one of the most important ones.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm saying that about all of them, aren't I?
Yeah, no, they're all pretty important. I mean, that is why it's a system, isn't it? That they're interlinked, and any adjustment in one will offset something that happens in another. Yeah. You mentioned that, you know, Australians are very quality conscious, but they're price conscious as well. And I'd imagine it's an interesting time. So if you go into a supermarket, Arnott's has this incredible dominancy on the shelves, right? But you know, the barriers to entering the food market are low. I'd imagine that there's the battle is just never over in terms of, you know, maintaining that presence. So there's, you know, always going to be someone else that comes in with a product that appeals to those values of quality and price. Is there anything that you were kind of really aware of in the market that you felt was important to address with this change in strategy?
I'll answer just the first part of that. So you talked to this idea of we have great scale and a big presence, and often we see competitors come in and sort of chip away at that share. And it's actually the sum of the small competitors acting together that then chips away at a bigger brand's sort of share. And if we think about the sort of Achilles heel of any FMCG, it's that we're big, we have great scale, which means we have great efficiencies, which makes it very challenging to go after niche opportunities. So when we talk about something like this, we have to consider it in the context of a bigger portfolio strategy. So the role of this brand is that it's not necessarily going to be the most efficient to make, but it's meeting the consumer needs that we have, and it's within acceptable sort of internal rates of return. So it's actually going out and saying, what do consumers want? How can we best give it to them in our capabilities, or upscale our capabilities to be able to give it to them in a way that doesn't dilute from our core and is still somewhat profitable? when we think about this particular occasion that we're going after with TeeVee Snacks, it's really not just the biscuit aisle. As I've sort of alluded to, you're actually snacking on things like Maltesers and Cadbury Bites and Smith's chips. You know, it's such a broad competitor set that you're never really going to be able to, you know, sort of attack everyone from every angle, but you are able to be quite single-minded and say, I'm here to stand for fun, exciting, bite-sized treats that are in the biscuit aisle. That will always have an element of biscuit, but for example, in the Krispy Kreme range, it leverages things like icing and sprinkles and product shape. And then in the previous ranges, it leverages things like malt and more chocolate, and trying to get that differentiation clear between your range so that you're offering consumers more and more of what they need within your brand.
Yeah, got you. Right. And I guess on that note, I guess what you've just done is so what you're saying is you're sort of always chasing someone, and there's this point where they fall in love with a particular product, and then a couple of years slip by and some shiny newcomer steals their attention, and so it's sort of about reclaiming, shifting that gaze back. I guess.
And consumers have their repertoire. Ultimately, all of us inherently, when we're shopping, we're building our pantry, and then we'll pick from the pantry. So we might pick up, let's say, a packet of chips, a packet of TeeVee Snacks, a packet of Tim Tams, a packet of Monte Carlos. We'll put them in the pantry. We won't think twice about it. And then we'll sit down at movie night with the family, or we'll sit down after school with our friends from school, pre-COVID, and we'll whip out the TeeVee Snacks. We'll sit down with our significant other, or friends will join us, and we were like, oh, we really need a great cheese board. Oh, we're going to whip out the Jats. So it's actually like saying, how do we build this beautiful pantry with all our products, so to speak, that play to the right moments that consumers are searching for? Most of us, you know, prior to COVID, we were shopping far more frequently. We were coming in store for sort of short, small basket size trips at higher frequency, and now that's obviously completely shifted to bigger buys online and in bulk. So it's always managing those two pieces, and it's also paying credit to when, you know, you do see things like panic buying, you will actively likely turn off a lot of your promotional activity because you don't want to encourage people stockpiling you know, hordes and hordes of product either.
Right. So is that something something I wasn't aware of. Is that something you were conscious of this past year, is it?
Very conscious of. I think if we take ourselves to the final P, which is promotion, arguably that's not just price promotion, that's also, you know, your media strategy, how you build your creative plans, and how you really engage and talk to your consumer. That's obviously a really big challenge, because if we think about the key kind of you know, channels that consumers are consuming media in, it's TV and home at the moment. It's not out of home, you know, retail media as much. And you'd imagine that we book a lot of our media 13 to 16 weeks in advance. So when we get down to the day where, you know, Gladys announces another lockdown, we're sitting there thinking, oh no, let's shift our media strategy again and keep changing our landscapes. And I think that's where you have to be very, very in tune with what's going on in market, potential threats, what could come your way, and how you build a very adaptive and agile plan to respond to some of those changing needs that will keep coming. If it's not COVID, it'll be bushfires. It'll be continuously something that you need to be very, very aware of.
And that kind of media strategy, we can talk about that as well, if you like, the work that you did on TikTok with the tasting, and that very much ties into, so you're talking about these kind of social occasions that we have, and that's kind of shifted to this new online occasion that people are doing, isn't it? The tasting, the unboxing, and also I think last year there was this trend for aesthetic picnics, so where kids would sort of get all these like bright shiny packs, and, you know, the tall biscuit, the flat one, the lolly, the chewing gum, and it was very visual. You know, it was always filmed, it was documented. So tell us, like, what was some of the things you tried to capture with that TikTok and the other campaigns?
Yeah, so if I think about the overarching kind of creative campaign, it always starts with an effective media strategy. So picking the channels that you're going to play in. For this particular range, it's no surprise that we wanted to be on key channels such as Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and in the future probably things like Snapchat would play a role there. Inherently digital, because that's where our consumer is. Then we take a step to the side and we say, creatively, what is it that these consumers are looking for when they're on these platforms? And it's not an ad. No consumer wants to see an ad, quite honestly. That's the first thing they'll do, is skip when they see something like that. So it's more about when you're thinking through your creative strategy and what your actual content will look like, how do you create something that actually engages people and is relevant to them and is not really as overtly an ad as it once probably was. So the strategy that we used was grounded in the consumer insight that this audience is online, they're bored, and they're unleashing their creative outlets on this channel. And that was essentially the brief to our creative agency. And then what comes back is this idea of, okay, actually, we don't need one ad. We don't need one 30-second ad. We don't need one 15-second ad. No, we need like 8 to 10 pieces of content that we can kind of push through at different times, that has a lot of variety, but at the same time communicates the central proposition, which is having fun with friends. So if you do get a chance to take a look at some of the content and ads that we created, you'll see that each of them is a fun, different story featuring different teenagers, and each of them having loads and loads of fun together with the product at the heart of that fun.
Yeah, it's very cute, peeking through the biscuit and all those things. And I can see your agency online. Thanks so much for joining us. In fact, you got tons of friends online. That's awesome. Got some like really good group of people. Just going back to the packaging, something I meant to ask before is one thing that you said was that you retained the heritage of it. You also retained the colours, but you've sort of really bumped up the word TeeVee, and sort of Arnott's is a little bit further down. So what were some of the other things in the brief that you wanted to change compared to the original packaging, given that you've kept some things?
I think my packaging agency is actually online, so they'll love this. First, huge credit to them. They turned around a brand restage brief within under 4 months. So brief to launch was barely 4 months, which is out of this world in FMCG land from a timeline perspective. A couple of things, and I'll use the product to sort of demonstrate what they were. I don't have the core packs with me, but what you can see here is we've actually created a design system. So no matter what is happening, whether we're collaborating or we're bringing new news together, it's the same system. You'll notice it's 2 blocks. It's got that angular piece down the center, and you're communicating flavor really clearly and product format really clearly, which was something that our previous pack didn't allow us to do. You'll notice that if you do get a chance to look at our old packs, you'll notice that they have this old school retro sort of TV lockup.
Yes, with the little antennas, which haven't been in existence since what, like 1975 or something.
which is when these were created, so it makes a lot of sense. But when we talk to consumers, we learned that people don't associate TV with watching television. They associate it with anything that has anything to do with a screen, whether that's their phone, their iPad, their computer. That's TV for them. In fact, if you ask this generation what TV is, they'll say Netflix.
Yeah, totally. You can't call it Netflix snacks though, can you? So I guess TV's now become this sort of universal word, hasn't it? Because we were sort of thinking that you know that sort of the way people watch TV has changed now, but I guess what you're saying is that the original concept for TeeVee Snacks is that they're this shareable piece of colourful fun to have while watching content. That's what you've kept. Yeah, got you.
That's what we kept, but we've step changed to say it's not just about that moment in front of the television. It's about all those fun moments that you share with others. As I alluded to a couple of them, but that was the key reason behind getting rid of that nod to sort of an actual antenna and the old school sort of TV shape. You'll notice that we've sort of modernized a lot of the typography as well. So really just saying to ourselves, how do you actually get this product to be visible on shelf so people can see, oh, that's a birthday cake product, that's honeycomb, and they can get excited by these new flavors.
Yeah, got you. So we've got time for a couple more questions, and you've just sort of raised a few things that I wanted to ask. So first of all, you know, we talked about product innovation, and product innovation can mean a lot of things. And I know that Arnott's now has gluten-free biscuits, and, you know, you've got new flavors all the time. But what are some, and now you've sort of innovated their marketing mix for this particular product, but what are some other innovations that you talk about at Arnott's that are important to focus on?
So I think if we take a step to the side and we think about all of our brands, we sort of treat them as individual businesses. So each of them have a series of targets on market share, penetration, sales, essentially, because as we drive those sorts of fundamentals, we get the chance to invest in things such as innovation. So innovation plays a wonderful role, and that's obviously what I've been doing for a fair while, but it's obviously not the only thing. So if I break that down into a few parts, there's the brand side of things, which is the actual management of the fundamental 6P mix that we've spoken to, which is could be anything from, hey, Krish, how do you make this brand more profitable? You know, it's not as profitable as it once was. What's driving that, and how would you like to fix it? It could be anything from that to things like, okay, we are losing market share on a particular brand. We don't know why. How would you go about solving that? Or it could be things like what you've seen on gluten-free, where you're actually saying there's a need in the market that we don't address with our current portfolio, and we want to solve it using, for example, innovation. And in the gluten-free example, it's which brands do we bring to life under that gluten-free proposition. And that's where you can just see this variety of briefs that will be coming your way, as any brand owner would, actually, to be fair, because it's ultimately all about driving business value.
Yeah, got you. And this is basically a huge topic, probably a topic for another day, but collaborations come to mind as well as a massive tool that Arnott's has used very successful to date. You know, we actually had Adriano Zumbo on BRANDCORE a couple of weeks ago, and I remember loving his collaboration with Tim Tams. And now you've got Krispy Kreme, and you've got a lot of others. But any sort of little sneak peeks you can share with us about any exciting collaborations coming up, either for TeeVee Snacks or for anything else you're working on?
There's definitely a lot more where that came from, that's for sure. You're right, they do form sort of a part, and we're not the only FMCG who does it. I think it's a great way to sort of breathe life into a brand in a very fun and topical way, and to leverage the synergies of two brands. So in the case of Krispy Kreme, they brought this beautiful cult social media following that, you know, we didn't have. They brought their iconic flavors, their donut flavors, which you can see we've replicated. When you open that box, you can really smell the original glaze just coming out at you. But we brought scale. So we brought those relationships with retailers, our ability to make, 5,000 biscuits a minute. Don't quote me on that number, but it's a large number of biscuits per minute. Our ability to distribute with efficiency and scale, our amazing sales force that can get beautiful displays up in our retailers. I think that's where it's really beautiful, where you've got two brands working together with the same sort of target audience, that Gen Z consumer, as the bullseye focus, but bringing two very different things to the table that synergistically create something really exciting for consumers.
Yeah, got you. Good. All right. Well, yes, so no sneak peeks, but we will keep on top of what Arnott's is doing and look forward to anything else you do have coming up. But I guess sort of a final question to wrap up with would be, so a lot of the brands that watch this broadcast are startups, so they're less than 5 or 10 years old, so very, very different to Arnott's. And I'd love to know what would be your recommendations to them. So a lot of them have these products that are maybe really exciting, and they have a lot of attention now. They're very new. They know how to communicate. But at some point, they're also going to hit those sort of points in the market where people have then moved on to the next shiny thing. So what would be your recommendation, I guess, top 3 tips for a business owner or brand manager that's now in charge of a young brand? What are some things to look out for, you know, as that brand matures and then potentially needs to have some life breathed back into it?
Really great question. So I think on the whole, it's getting that upfront piece right in terms of your strategy. So who your consumer is, where they're purchasing, why they're purchasing, and how they're purchasing. Getting that really, really sharp is always going to help you make the right choices when it comes to, do I need to innovate? Do I actually just need to talk more about my current products because people don't know about them? Do I actually need to pick a new media channel to talk to new people because that's the problem? So I think using that kind of a simple framework, if you wanted to sort of put the piece to the side and you just said who, what, where, how, why, when.
But yeah, one thing that's that we've loved chatting with some of the startups that we've chatted with in the last few weeks is that they'll go and actually physically sit in a store or at a railway station. They'll watch what people are eating. They'll ask them questions. And I guess just to never feel that you know everything about your customer, I guess that must be, I think that's something that we've really sort of gotten out of those chats. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. You were about to move on to your next one.
No, not at all. I would actually say that's one of the most important ones, which is actually recognizing that consumers' desires actually shift over time very, very, very quickly. And our demographics are changing in Australia very rapidly. So what it means to be Australian is changing. The faces behind that is really changing. You've got 1 in 3 Australians not actually born here, or with a parent who's not born here. So if you're a legacy brand, for example, like Arnott's, how do you talk to the new consumer who actually doesn't have a brand affinity because their grandma never gave them a Monte Carlo biscuit? And for a new company, it's like saying the opposite, which is I'm talking to a very diverse pool of people. What is it that they want and need? A really great example, I would say, are things like halal certifications. If you're going to be this is very tactical, but if you're going to be in a community that has a lot of Muslim consumers, then you're going to want to have the basics. Things like halal certifications are a basic for you to play.
Yeah.
So understanding your consumer, what they require, what they need, what's intrinsic for them, and being able to apply that to each of your sort of 6P framework is a great way to kind of keep yourself really centered from a strategy perspective.
Wow. So yeah, so 3 really great tips. So having that really clear strategy, knowing your customer really, really well, including how they're growing and changing over time, and then looking for those new realities in the marketplace. So you're saying like the need for halal certification and of course gluten-free and vegan and all those things, those big changes that have happened in the market.
And remembering that you can't chase everything. You can't do it all. You can't chase everything. So going back to who and what they need is going to keep you really targeted. Those would be my top ones. There's more, competitor realities, keeping on top of what's happening from a competitor trend perspective, any other new entrants that are coming your way. All those things kind of contribute. Yeah.
And I loved what you said earlier about sort of picking the occasion that's what's the perfect occasion to enjoy this food. Like you were saying, the cheese platter versus sitting in front of social media versus doing other things. So yes, those are, I'm going to add that one as a 4th one because I personally love that tip. Yeah, Krishma, thanks so much for your time today. Really, really insightful, and hope we can chat again sometime.
Thank you very much for having me. It was my absolute pleasure to talk about some of the exciting things we're doing at Arnott's, and hopefully we can catch you soon, or you can have maybe some more sneak peeks come your way a little bit later.
That would be awesome. We will reach out again, and in the meantime, we've got our afternoon tea lined up.
I love it. Good. Me too. It's been waving it to open it now, so I'm pretty ready.
Yeah, I'm glad I've got a couple of people I can share these with, so won't be tempted to hog them all myself.
Lovely. Well, thanks so much for having me. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Bye, Krishma.
Bye.